This week on Jerusalem Dateline, the Middle East continues to react to President Trump's recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Palestinian Authority Chairman Mahmoud Abbas calls it the end of the peace process, while evangelical leaders say it will bless Israel. Plus, Jerusalem commemorates the 100th anniversary of the British capture of the city, and a special look at the celebration of Hanukkah, the Festival of Lights. Hello and welcome to this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Chris Mitchell. The Middle East is still reverberating from the announcement by U.S. President Donald Trump to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Trump's decision came nearly 100 years to the day after an earlier milestone in the history of Jerusalem, when the British, under General Edmund Allenby, captured the city and putting an end to centuries of Turkish Muslim rule. Israelis and visitors gathered to witness a reenactment of the time when Allenby received the keys to the city in December 1917. A Hanukkah miracle and a Christmas present. That's what Jews and Christians called the 1917 British conquest of Jerusalem. 100 years later, Jerusalem commemorated the victory with the reenactment.
2 weeks before Christmas, and on the first day of Hanukkah, the British Imperial Army entered Jerusalem under the command of General Edmund Allenby.
After General Allenby walked into the old city through the Jaffa Gate, he came here to the Tower of David and received the keys to the city, marking the end of 400 years of Ottoman rule. Henry Allenby, a relative of General Allenby, read from the same declaration of 1917.
Every sacred building, monument, holy spot, shrine, traditional site of whatsoever form of these three religions will be maintained and protected.
General Allenby, he was a great military man who conquered the land of Israel and understood our city Jerusalem and its role in the world.
The anniversary celebration also welcomed a new exhibit at the Tower of David Museum.
It was a moment of hope for the people of Jerusalem who suffered so much from the war, from hunger. They waited for the change.
This wasn't about a demanding surrender of Jerusalem. That's why he got off on a horse. He wanted to show humility.
The great-grandson of Major General John Shea, who accepted the surrender, also joined the celebration.
To be here on the 100th anniversary of the surrender and of Allenby's entry into Jerusalem is very proud-making and also rather humbling.
An important aspect of the victory was Allenby's faith.
General Allenby was a devout believer in Yeshua and knew his scriptures extremely well, including the prophecies of Jerusalem. And when he knew when the Lord gave him the prophecy of Isaiah 31:5,
like birds flying about, so will the Lord of hosts defend Jerusalem. Defending, he will also deliver it. Passing over, he will preserve it.
He was given the idea of planes flying over and dropping leaflets that said, "Leave the city now." So that's why he was able to take it out without destruction, as the prophecy said. Without firing one gunshot, he walked into the city.
Ken Thompson's grandfather helped conquer the city under Allenby.
To me, it has a lot to do with the fact that Allenby was a believer, that he knew his scripture, and my grandfather got to be there, was there with that. It was part of the history.
General Allenby had a gift for Jerusalem Mayor Nir Barkat.
100 years ago, I stood here and I received the key to this wonderful city. And I think that 100 years later, it's about time that I return it. So it's a little bit rusty, but keep it, watch it, it's the only copy. So to another 100 wonderful years here in Jerusalem. Thank you.
While Israelis commemorated the capture of Jerusalem 100 years ago, ironically, a number of Islamic leaders gathered in Turkey, the head of the former Turkish Ottoman Empire, to reassert their claim to the city. They condemned the decision by President Trump to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Turkish President Recep Erdogan organized the meeting and called the nations of the world to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Palestine.
I invited all countries who protect international law and justice to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of the occupied Palestinian state. We cannot be more delayed. As Islamic countries, we will never give up on our demand of a sovereign and independent Palestine with Jerusalem as its capital.
Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas also attended the meeting and said because of Trump's decision, his people won't accept any role for the United States in the Mideast peace process, quote, from now on. He wanted the United Nations to take charge of the peace process. Abbas also is refusing to meet with U.S. Vice President Mike Pence when Pence visits the Middle East. But at the White House, it was a different story. Evangelical leaders gathered around President Trump as Mike Evans presented him with the Friends of Zion Award. The award is given to those who, quote, defend Israel without compromise. Evans founded the Friends of Zion Museum located in the heart of Jerusalem. It's dedicated to the heroes and the history of Christian Zionists who stood with the Jewish people during some of their darkest hours and who aided in word and deed the founding of the modern state of Israel. On the day of Trump's announcement, the museum unfurled a huge banner that read, God bless Trump, from Jerusalem, D.C., David's capital, to Washington, D.C. After presenting the award to President Trump, Evans and a number of the evangelical leaders spoke to the press.
My name is Mike Evans. I'm the founder of the Friends of Zion Museum in Jerusalem. And this award was commissioned by the 9th President of the State of Israel, Shimon Peres, to recognize a leader, global leader, with courage to stand with the nation of Israel and the Jewish people. We believe no American president in history has done more to defend the Jewish people in the United Nations, globally, and the recognition of Jerusalem, we believe, is a strategic step that will bring peace. We believe it's the soul of the heart of the Jewish people. And this president has stood up with courage and integrity, and we are honored to recognize him for his support.
I'm Jensen Franklin. I pastor Free Chapel, and I am profoundly thankful to President Trump for what he did last Wednesday, December the 6th, when he affirmed the city of Jerusalem to be the capital of the nation of Israel. See, we believe as evangelicals that the Jewish people, the nation of Israel, and the city of Jerusalem are intertwined with our faith. We cannot separate the two. And we believe that when our president and our nation stands with Israel, Genesis 12 boldly declares God will bless those that bless Israel. We care about the Palestinian people. We believe that out of this move that the president has made, there will come negotiations where we dream with them of a land where they will have and their children can prosper and their families can be blessed because God loves them just as much as He does the Jews or the Gentiles. And we're praying for the peace of Jerusalem, and we're so thankful for this opportunity today.
Once again, we were so thankful for the open door that our president has granted us to have very open dialogue. And I simply have to say, promise made, promise kept. We were grateful for his recognition of Jerusalem as the capital. God bless you all.
Coming up, a look at the history of Jerusalem and why Jews believe it belongs as the capital of the Jewish state. President Trump announced that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel, a position Israel asserted decades ago. But what's the history behind that claim? Gordon Robinson explains why history shows Jerusalem is the home of the Jewish people.
Behind me is one of the most controversial pieces of real estate in the world. The Temple Mount is the holiest site in Judaism and the third holiest in Islam. Muslim tradition says that Muhammad traveled here to the Al-Aqsa Mosque on his famous night journey. And that tradition forms the basis for the Palestinians' claim to Jerusalem. Arabs claim Jerusalem as the Islamic city of Al-Quds. But there's no record that the Prophet Muhammad had ever been there. And even his armies didn't arrive there until 5 years after his death. The city of Jerusalem isn't mentioned even once in the Quran, while the Hebrew Bible mentions it more than 600 times. In Muhammad's lifetime, it was a fairly unimportant city in the Byzantine Empire. It was a Christian city without a single mosque. When the Muslims conquered Jerusalem, they chose to build their mosques on the Jewish Temple Mount, believing it to be a holy site. There they built the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa, whose name was copied from the story of the night journey in the Quran. Several Muslim scholars place the construction of the mosque around 690, while Muhammad died in 632. So how could Muhammad's famous night journey have taken him to a mosque in Jerusalem that wouldn't be built until after his death? The Quran doesn't mention Jerusalem, but says that Muhammad's dream flight took him to Al-Aqsa, which means the farthest place. Early Islamic scholars interpreted that to mean a heavenly place, or the courtyard of Allah. That all changed as Islam evolved into a political force. During the Crusades, the Muslim general Saladin changed Islamic tradition to strengthen the Muslim claim to Jerusalem. He stated that Muhammad's flight took him not to heaven, but to the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. And today, the Jewish Temple Mount is also the third holiest site in Islam, second only to the Arabian cities of Mecca and Medina. Muslims believe that once they claim a piece of land, it belongs to Islam forever. Still, at the beginning of the 20th century, Islamic leaders acknowledged the Temple Mount's Jewish history. In 1924, Jerusalem's Supreme Islamic Council published this tourist pamphlet on the Temple Mount. It says the site's identity with the site of Solomon's Temple is beyond dispute. This, too, is the spot, according to the universal belief, on which David built there an altar unto the Lord. The pamphlet also describes the underground chamber the Crusaders called Solomon's Stables. It dates probably as far back as the construction of Solomon's Temple. In 1927, a strong earthquake damaged the mosque, and during renovations, archaeologists analyzed the structure. They found beams made from cedar of Lebanon and Cyprus, dating as far back as the 9th century BC, around the time of King Solomon, who had used those very materials to build the first Jewish temple.
Up next, a look at the place where many people believe Jesus was born when we come back. Vice President Mike Pence plans a visit to Israel and the Palestinian areas. As part of that trip, he wanted to visit Bethlehem. But after President Trump announced Jerusalem was the capital of Israel, some people in Bethlehem don't want the vice president to come. During the Christmas season, Christians from around the world visit the place where Jesus Christ was born. Most visit the Church of the Nativity, the traditional site of the birth of Jesus. But after 2,000 years, do people really know where Jesus was born? Here's a story we did several years ago investigating that claim.
This is the place where Jesus Christ was born.
Professor Kastandi Shamali teaches history at Bethlehem University and is an expert on the Church of the Nativity.
The Church of Nativity was built over this place in 326 when Emperor Constantine decided to declare Christianity as the official religion of the Roman Empire. Since then, pilgrims from all around the world started coming to Bethlehem to visit this place.
Inside the church, the original columns from the 4th century still stand. Constantine's mother, Queen Helena, built the church. But why would she build it here?
We do know that the identification of the site of where Jesus was born already traditionally goes back to the middle of the 1st century AD at least.
In the 1st century, the Roman Emperor Hadrian destroyed the town of Bethlehem. After he destroyed the town, Hadrian built a temple and planted a grove of trees over the site where Christian pilgrims had come to honor the place where Jesus was born.
What was left of the house, which was only a cave where the Virgin gave birth to the child. And people remembered this, and people already within 15 years were going back to that site to visit it.
In fact, this temple, instead of destroying the place, preserved the place.
Jerome wrote in 396 AD, "Even amongst those who are strangers to the faith, it is known that inside that grotto, he who is adored and glorified by the Christians was born." Through the centuries, the church itself went through a number of changes, but it's still one of the few churches in the Holy Land that was never completely destroyed. This is the main entrance into the Church of the Nativity. It's called the Door of Humility because you have to bend down in order to get inside the church. It was originally built by the Crusaders and then altered by the Ottomans in order to keep mounted horsemen out of the church. 1,400 years after Queen Helena built the church, Christian pilgrims still come from around the world. Many record their personal pilgrimage, both inside and outside the church. The central place lays inside the grotto. Many believe it's the very cave where Jesus was born. A star marks the exact location. Many crowd down the narrow stairs to get inside the cave. Down below, pilgrims often touch the star and record the moment they got to see the birthplace of Jesus. For many, it's a profound emotional and spiritual experience.
Now when I open my Bible, as I do each morning when I'm here and I'm reading, now I can picture the places.
It's just unbelievable. It's a live stream. Never expected to be here, but it's just awesome.
Father Peter Vasco leads pilgrims to Bethlehem. He says it's especially meaningful during the Christmas season.
I think it's an absolute wonderful occasion for pilgrims to come, especially so close to Christmas, to be here to pray at the spot where Jesus was born and to bring that prayer back in their own lives.
But another event recorded in the Bible took place after Jesus was born. Professor Shamali gave us a rare look underneath the Church of the Nativity.
This is the place where we have the tomb of the innocent children. Herod killed around 6,000 children from the whole area in order to kill Jesus Christ, because he don't want to have a new king that will replace him.
We followed Professor Shamali down to some of the tombs below the church.
Here are the tombs of the innocent children. These are the bones of some of the children that we believe were killed by Herod.
But another significant event took place just outside Bethlehem. Pastor Steve Corey, a local pastor, showed us caves many believe were used by the shepherds on that holy night. Luke 2, 8-11 says, "And there were shepherds living out in the fields nearby, keeping watch over their flocks at night. An angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, 'Do not be afraid. I bring you good news of great joy that will be for all the people. Today in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you. He is Christ the Lord.'"
According to history, shepherds would use these caves to store the sheep during the winter, to store their food in the caves, and also places to live with them. You know, the shepherds were very close to their sheep.
Those shepherds became the first witnesses to the fulfillment of a prophecy given 700 years before, when Isaiah proclaimed, "Therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. The virgin will be with child and will give birth to a son, and will call him Emmanuel." Today, that Christmas message is still the same for pilgrims, professors, and pastors.
The reminder that God himself came to earth to die on the cross and to be born in a manger. And this is the essence of it, is that people's lives are changed. People's lives will be changed if they hear about Jesus Christ.
Up next, a look at the Festival of Lights, Hanukkah, and how Israelis celebrate the holiday in Jerusalem's Old City. For 8 days, Jewish people around the world celebrate Hanukkah, a holiday marking a great victory 2,000 years ago. CBN News visited the Old City of Jerusalem to meet one family and take a look at the festive lights. Thousands of Israelis come to Jerusalem's Old City at Hanukkah to celebrate and see the lights. All over the world, Jews say special prayers, thanking God for miracles past and present, and light a special candelabra or menorah called a Hanukkah for 8 days.
This is a holiday about spirituality. This is a holiday about values. This is a holiday about connecting to God. So many Israelis come here. Everybody's attracted to the light.
Also known as the Feast of Dedication, Hanukkah is not mentioned in the Old Testament, but it is in the New Testament. Now it was the Feast of Dedication in Jerusalem, and it was winter, and Jesus walked in the temple in Solomon's porch. CBN News joined Rebecca Spiro and her family for the Jewish celebration.
It's a holiday that celebrates religious freedom and our victory against oppression and our ability to rededicate the temple.
And her children?
The presents and the parties and the lots club.
We have groups coming all the time, and we go on trips, and it's fun, and it's just fun.
In the 2nd century BC, the Jewish people in Judea revolted against the Syrian Greek conquerors. The Seleucids tried to impose their culture, forcing the Jews to eat pork and forbidding Sabbath observance, Torah reading, and circumcision. Worse still, the Seleucids defiled the Jewish temple in Jerusalem and dedicated it to the Greek god Zeus. Led by a priestly family known as the Maccabees, the Jewish people retook Jerusalem and rededicated the temple. But when they wanted to light the menorah, there was only a tiny bit of sacred olive oil left.
We celebrate the 8 days that the menorah burned, which is a miracle. It was beyond nature, and also the military victory.
Eating fried foods like potato pancakes and jelly donuts is another Hanukkah tradition. Spiro's family and neighbors also have their own personal tradition to build unity between secular and religious Israelis.
Every single year we bring out a table of drinks, and thousands of people come to the old city for Hanukkah to look around and see the menorahs and light, and then we give out hot drinks to all the people that come.
Spiro says there's a message in the holiday for today.
The world's coming up against Israel. The wolves are circling the sheep. This is nothing new. And the message of Hanukkah is that no matter what happens, our candles burn bright. And civilizations have come and gone, but the Jewish people are still here.
It's a wonderful experience to see the lights of Hanukkah in the old city of Jerusalem. We want to wish our Jewish friends around the world a happy Hanukkah. And we also want to send a special holiday greeting to our friends watching us on Revelation TV. That's all for this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Thanks for joining us. Remember, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. I'm Chris Mitchell. We'll see you next time on Jerusalem Dateline.